The humid Florida air hung thick and heavy. A shimmering curtain draped over the manicured lawns and pastel-color houses of the exclusive gated community, Palm Crest Estates. Julian Thorne, a self-made tech magnate, had recently purchased a sprawling modern mansion at the end of Magnolia Lane, a stark contrast to the Mediterranean villas that dominated the neighborhood. My arrival, marked by the low, guttural rumble of my custom-painted Rolls-Royce Phantom, had ruffled more than a few perfectly HOA feathers. The Rolls, a beast of automotive artistry, was my pride and joy. Its midnight blue finish, shimmering with flecks of obsidian, was a testament to my success. It was a symbol, a statement, and, unfortunately, a magnet for the kind of attention I least desired. The Palm Crest Homeowners Association, or HOA, was a bastion of suburban conformity, ruled by a council of impeccably dressed, perpetually tanned individuals, led by the formidable Patricia Patty Carmichael. Patty, a woman whose platinum blonde hair was as rigid as her principles, was the embodiment of the Karen archetype. Her life revolved around maintaining the aesthetic integrity of Palm Crest, a phrase she uttered with the reverence of a high priestess reciting sacred texts. My Rolls, parked in my own driveway, was, according to Patty, a flagrant violation of the HOA's vaguely worded parking regulations, which, as far as I could tell, were designed to ensure that all vehicles were uniformly beige and inconspicuous. The first notice arrived within days of my move. A crisp white envelope, bearing the Palm Crest HOA logo, was slipped under my door. It was a courtesy warning, informing me that my oversized vehicle was in violation of Section 3.2, subsection C, paragraph 7 of the community bylaws. The notice, written in a font that screamed passive-aggressiveness, requested that I remedy the situation immediately. I ignored it. The second notice, delivered a week later, was less courteous. It was a final warning, threatening immediate towing if I failed to comply. This time, Patty had underlined immediate towing in red ink, a detail that suggested a level of personal involvement that bordered on obsession. I still ignored it. I was, after all, Julian Thorne, the man who had built a billion-dollar tech empire from the ground up. I had dealt with hostile takeovers, patent lawsuits, and venture capitalists who would make Patty Carmichael look like a cuddly teddy bear. A petty HOA dispute was, in my mind, beneath my notice. The day of the towing attempt dawned bright and clear, a typical Florida morning. I was in my home office, a sleek, minimalist space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking my infinity pool, when I heard the commotion, the low rumble of a tow truck, followed by the shrill, indignant voice of Patty Carmichael, echoed through the open windows. I glanced out to see a hulking tow truck, its driver a burly man with a sunburned neck, attempting to hook up my Rolls. Patty, her face flushed with a mixture of triumph and righteous fury, stood beside him, directing the operation like a general overseeing a battlefield. I calmly finished my email, saved it, and then strolled out to the driveway, a bemused expression on my face. "Good morning, Patty," I said, my voice smooth and even. "Having some trouble?" Patty turned, her eyes narrowing. "Mr. Thorne," she said, her voice dripping with disdain, "as you have repeatedly ignored our notices, we are now exercising our right to enforce the community bylaws. And that involves towing my car?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Precisely," she said, a smug smile playing on her lips. "I see," I said, nodding slowly. "And who authorizes towing?" "The HOA board," she said, her voice laced with authority. "We voted unanimously." "Unanimously?" I asked, feigning surprise. "That's quite a feat considering I own 3 properties in Palm Crest, and therefore hold 3 votes, which I never cast." Patty's smile faltered. That's irrelevant," she stammered. The bylaws, I interrupted, which I have read thoroughly, state that a quorum of the board must be present for a vote to be valid. And since I, a member of the board, was not notified, there was no quorum. Patty's face turned a shade of crimson that rivaled the hibiscus flowers blooming in my garden. You're being pedantic," she sputtered. "Pedantic?" I asked, my voice laced with amusement. "I'm simply pointing out that your attempt to tow my car is illegal. The tow truck driver, Sensing the shift in the power dynamic, paused his work and looked from Patty to me, a question in his eyes. "Sir," he said to me, "I don't want any trouble. I'm just doing my job." "Of course," I said, smiling at him, "and you're doing a fine job. But I'm afraid you'll have to put the hook down. This towing is unauthorized." The driver, relieved, released the hook from my rolls. Patty, however, was far from defeated. "This isn't over, Mr. Thorne," she hissed. "I will not tolerate this blatant disregard for our community standards." "Then I suggest you consult a lawyer," I said, turned to walk back to my house. "Or perhaps you could focus on more pressing matters, like the overgrown weeds in your front yard." Patty's face contorted with rage, but I simply smiled and closed the door behind me. The incident, as I had expected, did not end there. Patty, fueled by her wounded pride, launched a campaign of harassment. She filed a series of frivolous complaints with the HOA, accusing me of everything from excessive noise to improper landscaping. She even attempted to have me fined for unsightly window coverings, a reference to the custom-made blackout blinds in my home theater. I ignored her, as I had ignored her previous attempts at intimidation. I was a busy man with a company to run and a life to live. I didn't have time for petty squabbles with a suburban tyrant. One day, however, I received an unexpected email. It was from Patty Carmichael. The subject line read, "Job application." Intrigued, I opened the email. It contained a cover letter and a resume. Patty, it turned out, was a marketing executive with a long and impressive track record. She had recently been downsized from her previous job and was looking for new opportunities. I was surprised, to say the least. Patty Carmichael, the woman who had tried to tow my Rolls-Royce, was asking me for a job. I considered the situation. Patty was clearly intelligent and driven, albeit in a misguided way. Her marketing skills were undeniable, and her experience in the corporate world was extensive. And, perhaps most importantly, she had fire in her belly, a determination that, if channeled correctly, could be a valuable asset. I decided to take a chance. I invited Patty for an interview. She arrived at my office, dressed in a sharp business suit, her demeanor surprisingly subdued. She was polite, professional, and, dare I say, almost charming. During the interview, I didn't mention the HOA incident. I focused on her qualifications, her experience, and her vision for the future. She impressed me. She was articulate, knowledgeable, and passionate about her work. She had a clear understanding of the market and a creative approach to marketing strategy. I offered her the job. She accepted. Patty Carmichael, the HOA Karen, was now my employee. The first few weeks were awkward, to say the least. There was a palpable tension in the air, a silent acknowledgement of the elephant in the room. But Patty was a professional. She focused on her work, and she excelled at it. She brought a fresh perspective to our marketing team, a new energy that was contagious. She was a hard worker, a problem solver, and a team player. She was, in short, everything I had hoped she would be. Over time, the tension dissipated. We developed a working relationship based on mutual respect and professional admiration. We even found ourselves laughing about the HOA incident, albeit in a slightly uncomfortable way. One day, as we were working on a new marketing campaign, Patty paused and looked at me. "Julian," she said, her voice hesitant, "I want to apologize." "Apologize for what?" I asked. "For everything," she said. "For the HOA, for the towing attempt, for being difficult." "Patty," I said, smiling, "it's water under bridge. We all make mistakes." "But I was so wrong," she said. "I was so focused on my own little world, on my own sense of control, that I completely lost sight of what was important." "And what's important?" I asked. "People," she said. "Relationships. Understanding. Not parking regulations." I nodded. "You've changed, Patty," I said, "for the better." "I have," she said, smiling, "and I have you to thank for it." "No," I said, "you have yourself to thank. You had the courage to admit your mistakes and the determination to change."